What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to share with you my record collection. So I'm just gonna go through some of the records I've bought in the last years, or even recently. I've bought a few. I go through little phases where I'll buy, some vinyl on eBay, or I've had it's kind of getting popular now. You're starting to see these record bars where it'd be like a bar slash vinyl store where you can kind of shop for vinyl while enjoying draft beer. So anyway, recently I finally got a copy of P, which I thought was really cool because this was not a lot of people are aware, but Johnny Depp and the Butthole Surfers lead singer Gibby Haynes formed a band called P. Just the letter P was the name. In the early 90s, 93 actually, this album come out, this LP. This was their only album. Of course, Gibby Haynes was, at that time in the 90s, busy with his band Butthole Surfers, so he didn't have a lot of time for side projects, but nevertheless, they put out this album. I thought it was cool. Gibby Haynes did the artwork. And this is the band members. Sal Jinko. It was Johnny Depp, Billy Carter, of course Gibby Haynes, Johnny Depp, Sal Jinko, and Billy Carter. Another thing that people don't realize is Johnny Depp really didn't want to be an actor. His first aspiration was to be a musician. He wanted to be a rock star. He always played guitar, and actually he was in a band called The Kids. And then, after a while, then at some point, Nicolas Cage got a hold of him, and because they were good buddies, and he said, "Hey man, have you ever thought of trying acting?" And he, I think he went to a casting call, and lo and behold, it led to him being what he is now. But he's always done the music thing. So he's been in this band. He's in Hollywood Vampires. But anyway. This is one of his projects, and it's kind of cool to have a vinyl copy of this. So I have a Daniel Johnston. This isn't a first copy, but this is the Yip Jump, the Summer of '83 album that he did. And he always did his own artwork as well. And there's a good documentary on him called The Devil and Daniel Johnston. If you like underground music and good music documentaries, I recommend that. You should definitely check that out. Yeah, I bought mine on Amazon, I think, and yeah, it's good. I have this copy of the Hard-Ons. They were a punk rock band from the 80s, so I thought it was pretty cool artwork, I think I got it in some little music shop. Yeah, actually in Hillsboro. A place called Volume. Really cool place. It's a bar slash vinyl store. And pretty cool, There's little holders for your beer, little stands you can put your beer in while you're sifting through vinyl, I also bought Richard Bone, Brave Tells. He was an electronic techno artist, and sometimes when you listen to him, you almost wonder if maybe Trent Reznor was somehow inspired by this guy, because there's a kind of some Nine Inch Nails sounds, and it kind of has that techno industrial kind of sound that Nine Inch Nails has in a lot of their early music, and even in today, some of their newer music. I actually won this in a bidding war, thankfully. This is a first pressing of The Birthday Party, 1982 album. It's the Junkyard album. This was Nick Cave's band. Before he started Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, he was a part of the birthday party, and this was their album Junkyard. So, and this is the first pressing, cool art. The same guy who did the art for this is the guy who did started the Rat Fink. See, as you can see, you see the rat in there. One of the first vinyls I bought, I was living in my first apartments in the early 2000s in Burlington, North Carolina, and a guy that I was living near was moving out. He was having a kind of a moving out apartment sale, garage sale, and he was selling vinyl. And I bought this in a ZZ Top album, but this is the Street Survivor album, and yeah, I jumped on that. They were like $2 a piece, so you know. I have some 7-inches. I have some 7-inch albums. One of them, I got this. This is Squirrel Nut Zippers, which is a Carrboro band, which Carrboro's not far from me. You know, the Carrboro and Chapel Hill, or right down the road. And they were a swing alternative band in the 90s, and they had a big hit called Hell. But anyway, they had a real jazz swing influence, a lot of trombone. They had trombones, saxophones, and anyway, this is signed by Jimbo Mathis, who was one of the founders of the band, and by Don Raleigh, who I think he played trumpet. From time to time, I find, you know, just bands I really don't know very well, but, you know, if it looks cool and it's cheap enough, I'll jump on it. This is the Gorehounds. I love sludge metal. I love sludge and doom metal. I've always been a fan. I'm a big fan of the Melvins. I'm going to see them again in October, so the Melvins and Hank III's music, you know, of course he's done a lot of doom metal on the side. I also have, it's framed, but I have the Nirvana Bleach album, which I always thought was kind of cool with the artwork, with Kurt Cobain. Of course, the lineup was a little different back then. I think it was with Chad Channing, Chris Novoselic, of course, and Dave Grohl wasn't, of course, yeah, Chad Channing was a drummer, so David Grohl hadn't quite joined the band yet. And Jason Everman is shown here playing his Telecaster with the band. One of the misconceptions was he played live a little bit with them in the late 80s, very early 90s, around 90-ish, I believe, but he paid for this album to get recorded. So he financed this to get recorded in the studio, and I guess so Kurt did him that favor by putting his name as one of the musicians in the lineup. But he isn't actually playing on the album. But even though in the notes it says inside the album it says that he was one of the guitarists in the band. He played live with them. He was he was a touring guitarist for Nirvana in the late 80s, about 1990-ish, kind of in that time frame. And then he played with Soundgarden for a while, and then ended up going into the Army. He was so anyway, but he was a really accomplished guitarist. I found this Beatles Live in Hamburg, Germany album in a record shop in Hillsborough. Yeah, so it's Live in Germany, 1962. So I thought that was really cool that I was able to find this. It has some pretty cool pictures on the back of people hanging out in front of the club, waiting on the Beatles. Or maybe, I was trying to see, oh, you can see them playing there to the side. So, I'm just going to show you that the best I can. Some of their Roll Over Beethoven. I noticed some of the songs I know. It's Mr. Moonlight, I know that. And Sheila to Queenie. A lot of their kind of underground songs seem to be on here. Ain't Nothing Shaking Like the Leaves on the Tree. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't really their known radio songs. Mentioned Reuben and the Jets album. This is a first pressing. I always like the artwork on that. That's Frank Zappa and his Mothers of Invention band. Frank Zappa was a very, very talented musician. And it's sad that he died young of cancer. Here is a Ray Charles Greatest Hits. Gotta love Ray Charles. And this has a lot of his awesome hits on it, like Georgia on My Mind. I Wonder, Unchain My Heart, of course, Ruby, Hit the Road Jack. So, pretty cool. This is the Holy Modal Rounders. They're sort of psychedelic folk bluegrass type of band. Actually, one of their songs was on the Easy Rider soundtrack when Easy Rider, with Easy Riders with Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper. I'm sorry, I almost forgot his name. Dennis Hopper came out. But anyway, pretty cool artwork on here. You know, guy playing there's a guy playing the fiddle, the guitar, there's a violin player, bass player, guy playing the piano there. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me see if I can. Even the inside has pretty neat little folk art. And the lyrics to each song, to all the songs in it. But anyway, I've been listening to them for a little while, and if you like good bluegrass folk music, you'd probably like the Holy Modal Rounders. Here's a couple 7-inch albums that I found. I have the Phantom Surfers. They were surf rock. They were a surf rock band. You know, like that California, kind of like if you've ever seen the movie Pulp Fiction, some of the music and the soundtrack that Quentin Tarantino used for the film was kind of surf rock. You know, it was kind of popular, and there was kind of a time that it really was, I guess, 80s and maybe even early 90s. There was a time where surf rock was kind of coming in style, coming into its own, and then it kind of fizzled out like other genres do. And then here's another that I have called this Warm Wire. Sometimes, you know, if it's I find 7 inches that are cheap and it's cool artwork, sometimes I'll get it, you know. And but this is a band called Warm Wires, and don't know a lot about them. I've checked them out, of course, on YouTube just to see what they were about, but pregnant chick on the back. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Anyway, I appreciate you joining me, and I will see you next time.